What is up, my fellow Cobra Kai, Eagle Fang and Miyagi-Do friends? In this video, I want to talk a little bit about pertaining more to Robbie's potential redemption, quote-unquote. Now, we don't know if this is going to happen or not, but, you know, I don't see a world in where he doesn't come back to the light just based on the first two seasons. And I'm so surprised that this scene has gone over so many people's heads. And the scene that I want to talk about is where Daniel tells his story to Robbie and Sam and the new Miyagi-Do recruits. This is obviously after the Miyagi-Do's destruction in the middle half of season 2. And then Daniel goes and confronts Johnny in the dojo. And then Chris and Nate and a couple of the others basically defect and they switch sides. But in this case, they're not even switching sides. They just want to learn Miyagi-Do karate. And Dimitri's unsure about letting them in and all that. Leads to this sort of big argument between them. And then Robbie says, you know, once a Cobra Kai, always a Cobra Kai. And then Daniel says it's not true, because I used to be in Cobra Kai. And obviously that holds true. In Karate Kid 3, where was he? In Cobra Kai. And the scene here where he starts telling the story, every single student in the scene is enamored. They're listening with intent. But I want to pay extra attention to Robbie, because it seems like Robbie in this scene for me is the most in thought. Dimitri and Chris have sort of taken this as, you know, okay, maybe we just judged each other wrongly. Okay, my bad. Let's work together. But it feels like Robbie is using this to kind of look inwards within himself and within what he sees Cobra Kai to be. Now, obviously, having seen season 3, we know that it comes full circle. He ends up joining Cobra Kai, which is a major factor in why Kreese was able to walk out of the fight. He was able to distract Johnny with Robbie and throw him off balance. He was able to distract Daniel briefly with him. And the sucker punch that both Daniel and Johnny felt seeing Robbie join Cobra Kai. You know, Daniel, because Robbie is his student. He's Robbie's sensei. He taught him everything he knew. He was like a father figure to him. And it's sort of come full circle. He wasn't there, you know, for Robbie. And he's basically created the very thing he wanted to avoid. He sent Robbie down that path, so he's going to feel tremendous guilt for everything that's happened. And then Johnny's going to feel enormous guilt because he's going to feel like he's abandoned him his whole life, and it's led to this. And then Johnny's going to feel even more responsible for bringing Cobra Kai back in the first place, not just because it was corrupting the kids' heads, but now his son, his own flesh and blood, is now on board with Kreese, the same way that Kreese wanted Johnny to be on board many years ago. And what I find interesting is that Kreese still wants Johnny. He keeps giving him chance after chance. He's like, this is your last chance, Johnny. And then he keeps giving him another chance because he wants Johnny on the same side. Now, the tactic that Kreese uses by getting Robbie there is he wants Robbie to be the reason that Johnny comes back, or he's going to use Robbie as the reason, as like a tool, an asset, to get back at Johnny. So either way, Kreese wins in the equation. And in this scene here, you know, Daniel is telling about his story about joining Cobra Kai, how it turned him into an angry, violent kid. I really, really hope we explore this aspect of Robbie's character in Season 4, because this little story about Daniel's, you know, story of him joining Cobra Kai is very similar to Robbie's. Very similar. Not exactly the same, because Robbie's is a bit more, how should I say, built up. And it's a bit more alluded to across the show. Whereas in Karate Kid 3, Daniel just kind of, you know, Miyagi didn't want to teach him. And he was in a vulnerable place and Silver took advantage. Which is exactly what Kreese has done with Robbie. He's taken advantage of Robbie's vulnerable state. And he's lured him to Cobra Kai. Now, if you watch Season 1 and 2, whenever Robbie's in Miyagi-Do, he's always punching that bag. Right? He's always punching that bag, even if he's just sparring in anger. When his mum went to go to Mexico with that guy, there was also, he also played a character on The Walking Dead. I think it was it Jed or something? He was a savior? I didn't realize that. But she goes with him, and the next shot after they leave is Robbie just punching the bag. So Robbie has always had this desire to fight first. Now you've put him in Cobra Kai, he will do just that. He was already punching the bag after one session with Kreese. And he already wanted to attack Johnny head on. So all of the rage, all of the Miyagi-Do teachings that have inspired him to keep it within and to find a balance. The balance lies within letting that evil out. So in essence, it's going to do good things for Robbie's character to get this evil out of him. And then when he sees... Sort of like how Hawk came to a realization this season. When Hawk realized that Kreese saw them as soldiers and nothing more than what they are, that was when Hawk realized, right, I need out. I need to get out of here. So Robbie will have a similar fate. And you could say that it might go up to the end of Season 4. It could happen before the All Valley. Maybe Robbie fights unaffiliated again, leaving Cobra Kai in the dust. Or maybe he renounces Cobra Kai in the tournament. Or maybe he switches sides next season. But I feel like for the majority of Season 4, we're going to see Evil Vader Robbie. Darth Vader type Robbie. And I feel like we're really gearing up for Robbie to do some pretty bad stuff. You know that scene in Season 1 when he's in Tech Town in Panorama City? He's perfectly suited to the tasks that Cobra Kai does. He's perfectly suited. And I know I've got off a little bit of topic here, but I always relate it to this scene because this scene carries so much more weight. And I've said it's one of the best things about this show. It makes Robbie's turn to Cobra Kai look even better because it was foreshadowed in Season 2. And you know, the camera lingers, like it lingers on Robbie, you know, because he's in conflict with himself. He's thinking, right, Cobra Kai people can't change. They can't change. And he's always sort of painted them as the bad guys, but then you get to Season 3 and he realizes both are kind of the same. And then obviously he joins them or whatever. But I want to talk a little bit more about Daniel's realization, was that it's not something he's proud of. And this is where I feel like it's going to relate to Robbie, because Robbie at heart is a good kid. So there's going to be something that happens in Season 4 or in Season 5 or whenever that brings this out of him. The same way. Like, put it this way. Robbie in Season 1 is Karate Kid is Daniel from Karate Kid 1. Robbie in Season 2 is Daniel from Karate Kid 2. Robbie in Season 3 is still a little bit of that Daniel, but then he's more Cobra Kai-ish, and then he joins Cobra Kai sort of like Daniel did. Now, when I say he's like Daniel, I don't mean beat for beat. I mean just like similarities, parallels, and all that. So this is why, again, I don't feel that Robbie's going to stay in Cobra Kai forever, because this right here, this speech that Daniel gave to him, and all the other new students and his own daughter and Dimitri, that anyone can be tempted by Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is essentially the dark side, Miyagi-Do's the light side, and you want to find the balance between both. That's why Johnny and Daniel coming together is perfect, and you know, it's amazing. I'll save that for another video. But I feel like regardless of when Robbie switches sides, it could happen Season 5, it could happen at the end of the show, it could happen whenever. I trust the writers to execute at the right moment. Or they may even pull a subversion. Maybe they don't even redeem Robbie at all. Like, I'm just throwing it out there. What if they don't? What if they don't redeem it all? Redeem Robbie at all? It's possible. You never know. But again, in the context of this scene, and I always relate it, like, I know I'm going to separate other scenes, but this scene right here is connected to so much. It's connected to Daniel's vulnerable place in Karate Kid 3, Robbie's vulnerable place in Season 3 of Cobra Kai. So there's a lot of parallels, and it's this scene here that I feel like no one's talking about. And it just reminds me of when Daniel joined perfectly. And, you know, if only Johnny was here to hear that story of how Daniel joined Cobra Kai. But I feel like Robbie will leave Cobra Kai after something major happens. There's going to be something. Now, I want a conversation between Robbie and Dimitri. Lest we not forget that when Dimitri joined Miyagi-Do, Robbie was very protective of Dimitri. You know, as soon as Chris and the former Cobra Kais entered the dojo, Robbie was like, you come back for another beating? And he was like, these are the guys who beat on Dimitri. And he was looking at Dimitri, you know, while Dimitri was looking down. Like, he was protective. And when Dimitri finally, you know, got a kick on one of the other Miyagi-Do students in the freezer, Kan Geiku, I think it was, he was like, woo, I did it. Gets booted in the stomach. You know, Robbie and all the others were like cheering in with him, celebrating him. Robbie and Sam were both protecting him in the mall fight. I feel like there needs to be a scene between them two to address, you know, Robbie's turn. Because that's the one thing I will say about Season 3 is that I feel like, besides maybe Sam, like, none of the other Miyagi-Dos kind of cared what happened to Robbie. Like, they just kind of, like, just put it out on the wayside. I know they didn't know him for too long, but you know what I mean. Anyway, guys and girls, that's all this video was. It was just simply to bring spotlight onto this scene because I feel like it's heavily overlooked. And the way Daniel talks about how it makes you feel stronger, makes you feel tougher, but it's also going to get you in a lot of trouble, and that he was just thankful that Mr. Miyagi took him back. And Sam was like, you never told me about this, because it's not something he's proud of. And let's be honest, who would be? What Daniel was doing in Karate Kid 3 after he turned to Cobra Kai is exactly what's going to happen to Robbie. And it's going to be when he realizes his own problems, he's like, I got to get out of this. This isn't right. Especially with Terry Silver coming into the mix. Like, that's going to be a whole different ball game. You know, Terry Silver alone did master manipulation on Daniel. Silver and Kreese doing it on Robbie. You know, we're setting him up for some pretty evil stuff. And, you know, I know I've done quite a few videos on Robbie. It's just, I got a lot to say about his arc. I've always been fascinated by the rogue good guy, you know? I know people like to paint Robbie as this villain, but in essence, the only real villain of the show is probably Kreese or Silver. Other than that, even Kreese and Silver have their redeeming qualities. You know what I mean? That's one thing the show does so well. But Robbie's arc through season 1 and 2, up until this point, has been solid. And then it's just a complete 180 because it was coming. You know, it was coming. The feeling of isolation is what switched him. And I honestly feel like there's going to come a moment similar, right, to when Miguel had Robbie on the ground ready to break his arm and he showed mercy. He remembered what Johnny told him, you know, about, I wasn't taught the difference between mercy and honor, and I paid the price for it. And the same thing's going to happen with Robbie. Robbie's going to have a moment. He's going to remember this speech that Daniel told him, and then he'll come back. Or maybe not come back to Miyagi-Do, but you know what I mean. He's gonna renounce Cobra Kai eventually, but at least by the end of the show. It could happen season 4, 5, 6, whenever. But I just feel like it's a natural progression. Now, I know there's been a lot of people that have said, well, maybe Robbie could die. But, you know, again, like, this isn't Star Wars, this isn't Marvel. Karate Kid follows a bit more of a simple formula. And, you know, it could just be me reaching. But I really don't want them to kill off Robbie. I feel like there's a lot of potential there for another story, of which I will get into another video. There's a great juicy video on Robbie that I have for you guys. And I also want to thank the support that you guys gave me for my Miguel video yesterday. I really enjoyed making that one. It was so fun. I love Miguel's arc this latest season. Always going to be one of my favorite characters. Heart of the show for sure. Thanks for the support on that. Really appreciate you guys. But anyway, you guys and girls, you comment down below your thoughts about this particular scene, the sort of the story beats and the nuances within this, and I'll see you down in the comments. Yeah, so make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and I will see you all in another video soon. And remember, you keep for your collection.